we have certain tools that are helping us to get through this structure of a text. And we know this week we have been diving deep into this particular standard, that fifth standard, where we are understanding why a series of chapters, scenes, stanzas, how they all fit together to provide that overall structure of a particular story, drama, or even a poem.
This lesson was attacking a fifth grade literary standard. It was based on understanding how a series of chapters, scenes fits into the overall sequence of a literary text. The text that we used in class was Laugh, and that was a science fiction text. This was chosen because we haven't done a whole lot with science fiction. And so this whole idea of something imaginative, inventive, was something that was novel. It lent itself to curiosity, and so I knew that it would hook them and they would be interested in the text itself.
Can you tell me, where did we leave off?
The rising action.
We were still in that rising action part.
We
Mr.
moved-
Chilton, what are you thinking?
We moved from the rising action to the climax.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit more about that. Why would it have been the climax of the story and not the rising action?
Because we got so into the story, we kind of like stopped and we were still at the climax.
Talk to me a little bit more about what you know about the climax. How do you know? What are some words that we have used to describe the climax of any story?
Oh, the major turning point.
Yes. It was a major turning point. You helped me. These are your words. You helped us yesterday before we left reading to capture each of these scenes. Somebody, can you tell me how I would summarize each of these scenes?
Peter's buried in books and he doesn't have a lot of friends.
Who is that again?
Peter.
So we learned about those main characters, but then we went into some of the rising action parts. Talk to me, fifth grade. What were some of the things that you had learned about that were leading us up to that climax part?
For fifth grade, we're asking them not to only sequence the events, but to have an understanding of why they are positioned that way and how one builds on another and how it's a very sequential chain of events.
Well, Angela thought it wasn't really going to be useful for anything since it could only keep you or objects there for a short bit of time, but then she realizes afterwards that it can be extremely useful, but she uses it to try and cheat to get her name published.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. And that's where we left off yesterday at that climax part where she had traveled forward to read what, Caleb?
Her story that she won, so she could write it and she could win.
Yes, she traveled into the future to see who actually won the writing contest. She got to see what that story actually was. She stole all of those words. We're at the part of this particular story. We're not sure what's going to happen. As we're traveling throughout a narrative text, we've got some signposts that have been helping us to understand and to figure out how all of these scenes are fitting together. Our author, Namioka, she did a great job of inserting these scenes where we're sliding to the edge of our seat with suspense. We're not sure how it's going to turn out. There's a reason why she inserted each of these points. So right now, I want us to take a look back. You can either look at your page or up here at mine. And I want you to zone in on a couple of these moments. I am going to ask for your participation. At this time, I would like two things ready. I would like for you to turn on your responders. And the second thing I would like for you to do is to flip your bookmark over so that you can see your signposts. Because these signposts have helped us get to where we are right now. Could everyone please scan through page 518 Talk to me about what is Angela going through on page 518. When you think you know the signpost that is jumping out at you, I want you to chime in.
In this lesson, we were asking them to use that same Neo, it's a Renaissance product, as a responder. And when I'm calling on a kid, the rest still are held accountable for understanding the question and given a chance to answer.
Guys, Tavon is looking closely at the sentence that said, "Suddenly, I was nervous." We know that she was super excited to go and get that winning story. She had no problem thinking about how this time machine was going to work for her. But now she's all of a sudden nervous. What is she struggling with? And I see that some of you are coming up with some good signposts here. Tavon, can you explain what you were thinking? She's nervous because what?
She was nervous because she didn't know how the time machine worked, and she needed to know how the time machine worked.
Great.
I chose the text laugh because in the beginning, it does a great job of introducing our main characters, and it draws our readers into sparking some curiosity because this main character is very different.
Here's what I would like for you to do. In your groups right now, you have your graphic organizer that looks exactly like mine. You're all caught up from what we have been working on. And I would like for you to now turn to page 523. In your groups, I would like for you to read just page 523. We're going to take this in small chunks. After you have read 523, I want you to talk in your groups about events that have unfolded on that page. And then I want you to also talk in your groups about any signposts that are coming out at you at that time, okay? So down here, we know we're in the falling action part. I would like for you to start taking notes in your group about what's happening now.
I think it's a tough question because she went around and nobody wrote that piece, so she's wondering who wrote that piece.
Okay.
And so I think it's her that wrote that piece.
Can you show me some proof
Um,
on this page, bud?
Oh.
How did
It said that meant someone in our class. One of the kids here had actually written the story. Who was it? My heart was knocking against my ribs. I stood there and waited for someone to complain. I had stolen his story. Nobody did.
They need to know why we're doing the things that we're doing. Why am I asking these questions? Why is it important? Where am I going? On the other side of that bookmark, we had the standards. I think that if you were to go back into the classroom right now and ask them what was the whole purpose of that lesson, they would be able to reference that and tell you why.
She feels guilty about winning the contest, and she realizes she needs to confess.
She realizes she needs to confess possibly. Do we know that that's for sure going to happen? Or is that your prediction?
My prediction.
That's your prediction? That's a very logical prediction because when you feel very guilty about something, some people can't take it anymore and they need to confess to make it right. Mr. Sean, I've got some other people that are thinking along the same lines as you. You said it was a
Tough question.
tough question. Mr. Chilton, talk to me about why was this a tough question in this scene?
It was a tough question for her because she was wondering who wrote the story that she wrote, and she thought it was someone in her class. Yeah. So she started getting feelings for other people.
She did. If you stole something from somebody else in your class here, this is a great group. You guys are like a family in here. Yeah. If you knowingly stole something, Caleb, from someone in here, how would that be resting on your shoulders? What would that do to your heart?
I'll feel sad, or that you stole and the other guy would cry, where is it, and all that.
Yeah. she's faced with what then? What is she faced with? She knows she has done something wrong. Miss Rianne, what is she struggling with now?
That she cheated and she feels guilty.
And so what do you do if you did something wrong? If you cheated, so you have to do what? You have to make a choice as far as what?
Go back and change it
Or what?
or confess.
Or confess. Somebody else that had a different moment, I just want you to explain. If you said any of the other signposts, somebody brave enough to share.
I think that the way that the story is gonna end, like, I think it's gonna show. I think that when she went back in time, when she heard herself getting out of the shower, and her mom saying like "I'm going mad" and stuff, I think it's gonna leave off with her in the shower when she's about to get into it, but then she realizes, you know what, maybe I should take the magazine into the bathroom.
Okay, what do you call that?
Like I guess a plot twist.
Okay, here's what I would like for us to do now. I want you to turn off your Neo. We are going to get to the rest of this portion of the story at another time.
The reason why we are having small group instruction after that whole group segment is so that we can pull back and I can see more closely of who is getting it, who is not. I can take a look at that same text, but I'm looking ahead at the next grade level standards. What are they going to need to do with that same standard? And then how can I provide more scaffolding for the ones that weren't quite with me in that whole group segment.
Where do you think I need to go? Because I'm going to need to make sure that I include certain parts that support my thinking here. Brianna.
You're going to need to go to the beginning and the end of the story.
Okay, where should I go first?
The beginning.
Great. Okay, so let's flip back. Okay, am I all the way back at the beginning? Where did she start? Where did this whole idea of the contest come in? Fisher?
It says, I got an honorable mention last year, but it wasn't the same as winning and showing my parents my name, Angela Tang, printed in the school magazine.
And how'd she feel about the honorable mention?
She felt kind of disappointed.
Yes.
Because she was all hyped up and she was excited to show her parents that, hey, look, I worked really hard and look what happened. I won, but it didn't happen.
Angela felt, what's your word? Fisher, I want to use it. I want to steal your word.
Guilty.
Before the contest?
She felt excited.
She felt excited. Because why?
Because she was hoping to prove her parents wrong and show that she was really hardworking.
Where it will go from here is we're going to finish out the text because we didn't get to the very end of it, and then we're going to take another look at what they did today in small group on the character development. From here, we're going to give the students a chance to become the writer. What would your writing look like? Now you're the author. How are you going to incorporate the sensory details, the concrete details, those exact words that a good author will give the reader so that they have a deep understanding of who that character is and what role they are playing?